Yo, Joe, welcome back to the channel. For today's video, I want to be discussing, I think I would say, I don't know if I would say controversial topic, probably not the right word, but an interesting one. I'm talking about the CDL GOAT in terms of SMGs. Now, there's definitely some options there. Players like a BZ who are definitely up there. I think Hook has a case now to, I wouldn't say it'd be the GOAT, but just to kind of make his name up there, like as you know, honorable mention, I would say. Hook, a BZ, players like that, right? But I want to talk about three people, and I want to just compare them, talk about their playstyles. Hydra, Shotzzy, and Simp, okay? Because I think they're the top three SMGs that we've had in the CDL era, and I just want to talk about them, compare them, and just give my thoughts on them. So, I've been watching COD for a long time, right? Since Black Ops 2. And I think over the years, you see different style of players, different games, different metas. And I think the reason why I think they're so good, in my opinion, like the first thing is just how they are able to adapt and win every single year, right? So let's kind of go one by one and talk about their players, their play styles, and just kind of what I think of them. I want to start with the player who debuted first. Let's start with Simp. So Simp debuted in Black Ops 4. Now, a lot of you guys probably didn't watch back then, so I'm going to use a recent example of Mercules, right? Think of Mercules last year, someone who came into the scene, kind of looked final, and just had an insane run, and their team were able to win champs, right? That was Simp. Simp was the original, right? He was a player who basically joined the United roster in Black Ops 4, and they just were insane with him, right? He brought that raw slaying power, and I think the biggest thing with Simp was how smart and fundamental he is. When I watch Simp, you don't see anything flashy. Like, it's normally like very simple and basic, and it's just executed at the highest order. That's kind of what I think Simp has been really good at, is just keeping it simple. Like, honestly, I think Simp has kept his gameplay very simple, very consistent, very basic. And sometimes doing the simple things consistently is the hardest thing to do. And that's what he's done so well, right? So that's all there from Black Ops 4. Also, he had like an insane sniper bag, which was kind of random for an SMG player. And then he goes through and he just, every single year, just carried on being dominant. I also think Cold War was insane for him, right? The way he was in Cold War was honestly godlike. And yeah, we kind of carry on year by year by year. He's had so, I think he might have had the most MVPs. He's won every year. And he's just so damn consistent. Now, I would say with his playstyle, he actually reminds me of a flex playstyle. And a specific type of flex, like a Mercules. I think with Simp, right, what you're going to get from him, you're going to get someone that's going to do his 25%. And he's probably going to do it better than most of the lobby. And he's going to get his kills. He's going to hold those power positions as a sub, like push up, be annoying. But what he's probably not going to do is that extra gear of pacing that you might get from like a Hydra or a Shotzzy. He's not going to have that run it down style. It's going to be a little bit slower. And he's going to have a little bit more of like that consistency. I think with that though, what you can see sometimes is his SMG duos sometimes fail a little bit. And I want to use 04 as an example. I think if you look at 04, a lot of people kind of look at his form. I actually think the way Simp plays sometimes is more of a flex, especially recent years. And what ends up happening is he doesn't have, like, his SMG duo doesn't have someone to kind of run it down with. So what happens is they get kind of isolated. That's what I've personally noticed. So, like, for example, 04, he doesn't have, like, a Hook or a Neptune like last year, right? So you're going to see a lot of inconsistencies with 04. And then sometimes he has that god form where he's taken over. And I just think with Simp's playstyle, sometimes that could be like the downside, I would say. But the upside is just how consistent he is and how good he is at his job. Like, if you understand what he wants from you guys, if he like explains to his team, guys, this is what I'm going to do, right? You just know what he's bringing to the table. And you could look at the downside, like other players could get affected, like I mentioned. But the upside is just how good he's going to consistently perform. And because of how good he is as that Slayer role, right? That kind of SMG floating Slayer role, he actually wins games on his own sometimes. And I will say one thing about Simp is his takeover, like his pop-off is definitely like top 3 in the league. His consistency, also across all game modes. So that's one thing I would say with Simp is just insane. Like his slaying is just a different level. He's also incredibly smart, consistent, and he doesn't really have a low floor. His floor is very high. So what happens is with most series, right? He is going to be frying. He's going to be the top 2 players in the lobby most series that he plays in. And some series he'll be the best player. So you just have a very consistent, incredible Slayer in Simp. And that's why I think he's been so good. Then we go to someone like Shotzzy. I think Shotzzy is a completely different player to Simp. I describe Shotzzy when I look at Shotzy's playstyle and what he does. So Shotzzy joined the Call of Duty scene in MW19. So Shotzzy was essentially joined in 5v5 Dallas Empire, right? And straight away he got, I can't remember if it was Rookie of the Year or Player of the Year, but he won champs in his first year. The biggest thing with Shotzzy, I would say, is being an Optic fan, right? Obviously watching him do his thing. His movement and POV is completely different. And that's not enough to be like, oh, he's the best. But I think now he's kind of mastered the game and what he wants to do. And I think what's happened with Shotzzy, right, is he's kind of, his biggest attribute is how he nerfs the enemy team. So I think this is where he's a little bit different to Simp. I think Simp's biggest attribute is kind of how he slays out and what he does for his team. I think Shotzi's biggest attribute is what he does for his team by nerfing the other team. You'll notice when you watch Shotzzy, right, he'll be in scenarios that are messing up the flow of the other team consistently. He'll be taking the routes. He'll be playing an off angle. He'll be doing these weird things that kind of mess up the flow of the other team. Now with that, I would say is more of a risky playstyle. There's more things that could go wrong because you're not, for you to kind of make a play, for you to be successful, it's not required to have like a 1.5 KD, right? Where with Simp, I think like most of the time you say Simp is like frying, is by actually frying. So it's kind of 2 different styles. I think with Shotzzy, he makes more plays without getting the kills on the map. Where with Simp, I would say most of his plays come from the slaying. And I'm not saying one is better than the other. I think it's just an interesting thing to look at. And I think that comes down to like the viewer and the team, what they think of what's better. Because if you look at like, what can we say? Like Overload, right? If you look at Overload, like Shotzi's going to be the guy taking that route, playing that off angle, taking that pinch route, trying to like get to the enemy spawn and like make the play. I will say Shotzzy does more of those like those type of plays where Simp's plays are like, I'm going to get a 3-piece, right? And I think they both do it very, very well. I personally feel like my playstyle is more probably geared towards Shotzzy sometimes in terms of like what I like to do. Now, can I execute like Shotzzy? Definitely not. Of course not. I'm not trying to say I'm not really comparing myself to him, but I think I appreciate that style more. What style's better, I don't know. And I also think there's a different thing where like, when you're looking at like rank play compared to like the Pro League as well, I do think if you look at rank play, I think Simp's style is probably better suited if you're trying to play like and learn what to do. Because I think with Simp style, you're getting yours. You don't necessarily worry about your teammate. Like, I think you can play with more range of a teammate, if that makes sense. Like, you're kind of the guy, so it doesn't matter if your teammates aren't playing as well. Like, you're still going to get yours. Where I think with Shotzzy, we kind of saw in Black Ops 6 as well. When his teammates aren't doing certain things, like, his role becomes a lot harder. So, yes, he makes the game easier for his team, but if his teammates aren't putting that pacing down with him, the other SMG, it becomes harder. I think also with Shotzzy, like, especially in the Pro League, you see a lot of teams kind of play for him. So I do think that, you know, you could look at that as either a strength or a weakness, but I do think a lot of teams kind of game plan for him, and that's very important. Shotzzy also has a Slayer bag to him as well, by the way, which is, you know, very important. But, like, let's just use SMD, for example, right? Shotzzy will be the guy to, like, go into the enemy base, get a kill, use a smoke grenade, distract the other guy, back away, and then win the round. He'll also be the guy that could go 1-8 and they lose the map. So he is a playmaker, a consistent playmaker. Where Simp, he will probably drop 15 kills in both S&Ds, right? So I think there's different styles. Shotzzy could single-handedly win you a map or lose you a map. And I think that's where the difference comes in. Where, like, both players just are very different, but very good in their own way. You got to look at accolades in terms of, like, Shotzzy has 3 rings, Simp has 2. Shotzzy just won the last, you know, he's 10th major now. You look at Simp, though, he has, like, been a top 3 team, on a top 3 team basically since he's joined the league. Like he's finishing and he's been winning in every single year since Black Ops 4. They're just completely different players. The reason I left Hydra to the end, I actually think Hydra is in a really weird mode of both of them. Because he doesn't take the routes of Shotzzy, right? I think if there was a scale or a spectrum between kills and like routes, I think Simp is more on the kill side of like how he likes to play and what he does on the map. Very impactful. Shotzzy's on the other side. His routes and his positioning and like the way he moves around the map, that's going to be his strength. Then you have Hydra, and I think Hydra is honestly the balance between them both. He has that perfect amount of kill hoary bag on him, but he also has that pacing and the routes of an SMG as well. And I think at their best, I think Hydra, I would argue, has the best flow state of kills. I would say Shotzzy has the best flow state in terms of his POV of moving and just that smoothness. And I think Simp has a more consistent bag when it comes to peaking. I think Simp peaks more than both of them because of his playstyle. And it's just a very interesting dynamic. I think if you're a team like an organization and you're going, who do we go around, right? If you look at Shotzzy, it's such a good asset, but you got to look at that and say, right, if we get Shotzzy, I think he'll make our teammates better, but there's going to be games where he doesn't and he kind of gets fried, so it's going to be in our team to kind of win those games. I think Hydra is sometimes similar. I think Hydra and Shotzzy have that lower floor because of that playstyle, where if you go with Simp, right, if you're an owner, you're like, we go with Simp, like we're going to have a consistent player who's probably not going to play bad ever, right? He could have a couple of series, right, anomalies, but for the most part, he's going to give you his 25% and he's going to do it better than most people in the lobby. I think that's where it gets really interesting. I think it also comes down to what duo you're working with, and this is why I love this conversation, because I don't think it's about who's better. I think it's just interesting to know what style works with what. I think if you look at, like, again, the SMG duos like Hook, right? Hook and Shotzzy, they complement each other so well because of the pacing they put down. We're seeing now, like, Hydra and the Beezy, the way it works is because they're putting the pacing down. Then you look at like Simp and 04. I don't think it works as well because I think 04 low-key kind of plays by himself because he doesn't have someone running it down with him. And that's why I'm actually like, especially with the way the game works now, I actually think that that phase roster, like say next year, for example, I know it's a different game, but like I would have loved to see how Simp plays as a flex, like the Mercury's role. I think if you have Simp as like a Mercury's role, I think he does kind of play that Mercury's role now, but a bit more pacing because he's still a second sub. But I think if you had like Simp play the flex role, then you had two assault rifle players, two submachine gun players that are like running it down. I think he would be the best flex in the league. He would be the best player in the league to go for those kills. That's where I think Simp is unbelievable. It's just an interesting conversation. The reason I want to make this video now is because we have champs in 2 weeks. And I think that this is also going to shift the conversation a little bit. Hydra has won his ring. I think Hydra has probably had the best independent year out of the three in MW2. I would also say Simp has had multiple years, like, which are crazy, like Cold War, Black Ops 4. I wouldn't count that as a full year, but Cold War I think was unbelievable. I actually also think his MW3 year was kind of underrated. He was also pretty good at MW2. I mean, he's had a couple of years where he's been him. I just think that a lot of fans, like casual fans, look at KD. I think there's more to the eye. So to defend Shotzzy and Hydra, it's not all about KD because of their playstyle. And I think with Simp probably gets better, like, he probably gets more love from his stats. But at the same time, there are a lot of players that play like Simp or try to, and they're nowhere near as good as him. So although I'm trying to defend Shotzzy and Hydra on that side, I also want to say with Simp, the consistency and level that he puts out is also second to none. I don't know who I would choose. I'm an Optic fan, so I'm going to say Shotzzy. I really think those three are up there, though. And I think they're all as good as each other. They have different things. Some people, so they just kind of head-to-heads, and it's just the way it is. But yeah, that's kind of where my head's at with the video. I just thought I'll compare the three. I kind of want to do a similar thing with an AR one as well. Maybe like Celium, Scrap, and Dashi. I know Celium hasn't had the best year, but in terms of like the last 5 years, I think they're being the top three. So let me know what you guys think, and I'll catch you guys for another one tomorrow. Peace.